Hello, my name is Rashmi from the Department of Criminology, Raksha Shakti University, Ahmedabad, Gujarat. The title of the module is Cyber Warfare. The objectives of this module are: number 1, to understand the definition of cyber warfare. Number 2, to explore the unique features of cyber warfare and cyber weapons. Number 3, to get an overview of various forms of cyber warfare. Number 4, to understand the potential targets and functions of a cyber attack. Number 5, to recognize some of the strategies to fight cyber warfare. Some of the prerequisites for this module are that students should be familiar with the knowledge of terrorism, warfare, computer networks and system, internet, information and cyberspace. Since Stuxnet emerged in 2010, cyber warfare has truly entered into public discourse. But what is cyber war and what do we really know about it? This module will help you grasp the concept of cyber warfare. Much has been written about the topic that has taken a solely information assurance perspective or a purely policy perspective. Cyber is a hot area today and will continue to be so for the foreseeable future. As society's dependence on technology is a given, its dependence on secure technology is a must. Better understanding when, why and how cyber war happens is the goal of the module. Cyber war is difficult to pin down with a definition. In general, cyber war is an extension of policy by actions taken in cyberspace by state or non-state actors that either constitute a serious threat to a nation's security or are conducted in response to a perceived threat against a nation's security. Further, cyber operations in general can aid other military operations such as intelligence gathering and information warfare. Hence, cyber warfare can potentially make a conventional conflict more potent as well. In 2002, James Lewis of the Center of Strategic and International Studies, that is CSIS, dismissed cyber warfare as a serious threat, referring to cyber weapons as weapons of mass annoyance. However, a decade later, there were many instances of cyber warfare that are viewed as significant threats to the security of a nation. In a cyber attack, a combatant seeks to reduce the effect of information by taking computer systems offline or at least somehow blocking access. Disruption of information during a cyber attack can pose a significant threat, and simple means such as denial of service attacks can be an effective method to attack such. This module will also look into the process of footprinting, scanning and enumeration that helps the cyber terrorists to learn about their targets and steal data. After completing this module, you will be able to understand the definition of cyber warfare, to explore the unique features of cyber warfare and cyber weapons, to get an overview of various forms of cyber warfare, to understand the potential targets and functions of a cyber attack, to recognize some of the strategies to fight cyber warfare. The threat of cyber warfare is growing in scale and scope as a result of the advancement in technology. Cyber warfare is a great threat to the nation's security and it has become an advanced and persistent threat in recent times. Cyber warfare is a new kind of war that can be politically motivated as well as solely for profit purposes. The internet connection is used to conduct the crimes. These cyber attacks can have a huge impact on an individual's personal as well as business life and an unknown risk to the nation's security. The cyberspace phenomenon has evolved and given rise to an alarming frequency of cyber espionage and cyber attacks. Such attacks range from simply entering a computer system for the thrill and interest of it, or to enter a system for revenge, stealing valuable data, extort money, or to cause deliberate harm to computers on a large scale. It has become one of the most serious economic and national security challenges that a nation can face. What is cyber warfare? There is no universally accepted definition of cyber warfare. Cyber warfare is generally a digital assault on a government by another or by a large group of citizens for the purpose of causing damage or disruption. Computer networks are used in order to disrupt, deny, or degrade information already available in the system. The UN Security Council resolution defined cyber warfare as the use of computers or digital means by a government or with explicit knowledge of or approval of that government against another state or private property within another state in order to intercept data and cause damage to digital infrastructure. Cyber warfare is a warlike conflict and in the virtual space with the means of information and computer networks that exist in the military and intelligence realm. The means used in cyber warfare are the tools, people, and cyber weapons available to an attacker. Cyber warfare requires a high degree of interdependence between the computer networks and infrastructure as well as technological advances in order to carry out the attack. The attacker uses illegal and hostile means to disrupt communications and infrastructure to inflict economic harm or disrupt defenses. Every attack depends on the availability of physical infrastructure such as the computer, electricity and communication satellites. The weapons are far less predictable than traditional means, leading to greater levels of suspicion. For example, the radius of a bomb blast can be measured to existing standards as compared to a radius of a malware attack. The cyber weapons mostly used are the following: software and hardware instruments such as different types of malware such as viruses, worms, Trojan horses, etc. Tools such as encryption, concealment of content and communications and network monitoring. Disrupting firewall and disaster recovery systems to harm the cyber capabilities. The attack may vary in its severity, such as attacks on civilian targets to cause physical damage, attacks on critical national information, attack on military targets, and insertion of dormant attack tools that are likely to trigger an attack. The motivations for cyber warfare can be various, although today's critical infrastructure networks are key targets for a cyber attack because they are considered the backbone of a country's intelligence capabilities. The vulnerability of an attack depends on the other nation's economy and military's usage of the internet in general. Cyber attacks on US military components and the probable strategic military cyber attacks by Russia on Estonia, then on Georgia, and attacks on China, North Korea and Iran on US defense and economic targets have received widespread media attention, and since then cyber warfare has become a growing concern. Features of cyber warfare. Some of the unique features of cyber warfare are as follows. It is one of the first major new forms of warfare since the development of nuclear weapons and missiles. It is difficult to determine the exact source of such attacks. Unlike traditional weapons of war, many cyber attacks may not necessarily result in permanent damage to the physical targets. Cyber attacks require only a computer, which is considered as the most powerful cyber weapon, and the knowledge of advanced computer systems. The defense in cyber warfare is expensive and can be a failure if not used effectively. There is very minimal or low degree of uncertainty during the attack. The effects of a cyber attack cannot be adequately anticipated. Features of cyber weapons. The weapons used in a cyber attack are of different forms and they can vary in their nature of complexity. The attacks could be intrusive as well as deny or block certain components in the computer system. Different levels or kinds of attacking software and hardware are required to damage the information systems. Three important features of a cyber weapon are as follows. Most cyber weapons would fail to achieve their expected degree of damage and target. Not all cyber weapons are lethal in nature. The damage caused by a cyber weapon could be reversible in the sense that cyber weapons are designed in such a way that despite causing damage to the systems, it has measures to restore operability or data of the target system. Potential targets of cyber warfare. There are essentially three categories for targets of cyber warfare. They are, number one, the most important target area of cyber warfare is to gain control over military command and communications as well as information gathering of the targeted nation. The data may be blocked, changed or false information can be inserted. The second target can be weapons or weapon systems where they can be rendered inoperable for a specific time period or even physically sabotage that could potentially direct the targeted nation to attack the false target. The disastrous shooting down of an Iranian civilian airliner by the Aegis combat system aboard the US cruiser Vincennes is an example of such cyber attack that targeted false targets. Cyber warfare also targets joint infrastructure, both civilian and military uses, and even civilian targets to demoralize, weaken and confuse an enemy's military leadership. These infrastructures include vital information related to the network, energy, water or sanitation or petroleum and global positioning system and chemical refining systems. Functions of a cyber attack. Cyber warfare has unique features that separate it from a conventional war. It may serve as the following functions. It may serve as a means to put pressure on the targeted enemy to change their policies, both military as well as civilian. It may also construct attack capabilities as part of deterrence. It may also be a counter response to a cyber attack. It could lead to the development of non-conventional weapons which can foil security risks. These attacks are of two kinds. One, where the enemy's cyberspace is disrupted and damaged, and that prevents the enemy to use the cyber domain for its own benefit. And the other is using cyberspace to attack the devices connected to the infrastructure installations, satellites, means of warfare, etc. Steps involved before a cyber attack. There are three essential steps before a cyber attack. They are, number one, footprinting, which involves examining the structure of an organization's computer network such as the range of IP addresses, the addresses of key components such as routers, the presence of security devices such as intrusion detection systems, and firewalls. Footprinting could be accomplished without being detected. The attacker might also dwell deeper, and more intense footprinting could result in accessing the target system, that is, visiting web pages written by the organization which the attacker targets. The second step is scanning, which involves using the information obtained through the first step to examine the individual systems of interest. Details such as what operating system is used, what are the open ports on the system, as well as the configuration of the firewall are determined during this stage. Specific software can also be used which runs in an automated fashion to help make the process more efficient and faster for the attacker. A range of IP addresses are entered and the software runs them overnight. Next day, the results are presented in the form of an output file from the software. The last step is called enumeration, which involves determining the vulnerabilities of the system that may allow the attacker to obtain access into the system. With enumeration, the attacker attempted to log into the system with the goal of finding specific data. This can be done manually, but software such as crawl, website, NetBIOS, etc. are available to help the attacker accomplish this task. The threat of cyber warfare. Internet has become a new battlefield for countries to conduct cyber operations against each other. Cyber attack undoubtedly poses a serious threat to the nation's security. It has become a major concern for militaries around the world. An individual with the expertise and knowledge of the computer networks and communications can put the world's computer system into chaos. The threat of cyber warfare was recognized when the Stuxnet worm was discovered in the year 2010. The attacks can have short-term as well as long-lasting effects on the targeted computer system. Cyber issues affect everyone from politicians to civilians, business executives, lawyers as well as ethicists. Most importantly, cybersecurity affects us as individuals who have increased our dependency on the digital world. Some targets may target a particular target for specific reasons, while others may go after a certain objective. For example, malicious code could infect an email or look for credit card information and relay that information back to the master. The cyber attack may quickly scale up in cost as the number of victims rises. A skilled attacker can create a lot of damage to the computer system by stealing the data, misusing the credentials as well as hijack resources. A cyber weapon may not have the nature of a poison, gas or a chemical weapon, but it can enable the party to the conflict to gain effective control over such weapons from an adverse party to the conflict. Forms of cyber warfare. The most powerful attack in cyber warfare is the disruption and denial of availability of information, as it can cause real-world disruption to the operations of various private as well as government services. It can also invoke feelings of vulnerability and weaknesses in the victim because their systems have been disrupted. The activities of exfiltration, monitoring and theft of valuable information from the digital world are labeled as incidences of cyber espionage or exploitation. The goal is to capture data of the opposing nation. Various forms of cyber warfare are as follows. Denial of service attacks are a well-known form of aggression on the internet. They are also sometimes referred to as DOS. During a denial of service attack, the system of the target is flooded with an abnormal amount of legitimate traffic to the effect that it renders the system inaccessible to the user. When numerous systems are involved, they are referred to as distributed denial of services, simply known as DDoS. Some forms of DDoS may be subtle, and these attacks ultimately hinder the availability of the user to exhaust its computer resources of a server or a network. Sometimes the attacker might ask for ransom to the target, and the target receives a communication for claiming the responsibility for an ongoing or future attack and asks for payment to stop the attack. Web defacement is usually targeted against web servers owned by the organization that the attackers have grievances with. The attacker usually compromises the web server and modifies the content, that is, web pages. The vulnerability of the attack allows the attacker to enter at will and change the contents of the web page to anything that they like. It has the same effect as the denial of service attack, where the users of the service cannot use it. Attackers can also compromise valuable information such as usernames and passwords from the web server. Advanced persistent threat refers to a network attack where the goal is to gain extended access to a device. The main intention is to steal data rather than to cause damage to the network. Attackers use social engineering to deliver targeted malware to vulnerable systems and networks. They also use malware to secretly secure acquired data or disrupt operations. APT can break into a network and avoid detection and harvest valuable for a long period of time. Prominent cyber attacks. Some of the world's prominent cyber attacks are: the first significant cyber attack was attributed to Russia when it attacked many Estonian government websites in 2007. This attack made use of DDoS method and disabled the websites for 2 days. It was after this attack that there was a heightened awareness about cyberspace threats. In 2008, Georgia was attacked by Russia. It made use of the similar DDoS method and damaged many public services and government websites. This cyber attack was meant to damage the communication systems in the US. In July 2009, many American websites and government sites such as NASA, FBI, and CIA were attacked by North Korea. The attacker was never identified. Civilian websites such as banking, media, and commercial sites were also targeted. In 2010 November, cyberspace battle broke out between India and Pakistan. It led to mutual attack on government sites of both the nations. Around 270 websites in India were attacked in response for the attack on 40 websites in Pakistan. The Stuxnet attack on Iran is considered as one of the biggest cyber attacks till date. Iranian nuclear installations were attacked and damaged by the Stuxnet worm. It damaged specific frequency converters installed on the uranium enriching centrifuges. Strategies to confront cyber warfare. With the increasing cyber attacks, emphasis should be placed on the preparations of formulation of cyber strategy. Cyberspace threats have become one of the most serious and security challenges in recent times. The digital infrastructure should be the top priority for every nation. Following are the key steps to be taken into consideration. Every nation should focus on increasing the cyber security so that the foundation to fight such threats becomes easier and more effective. Training military forces and equipping them with necessary resources to defend national security in times of cyber attacks. Active defenses should be employed to detect and stop any malicious code before it causes any damage. Increase scientific knowledge and capabilities in order to identify technological trends to reduce potential risk. Developing international cooperation in fields such as information, security, and protection. Raising awareness of the issue of the public at large. I will now provide you with an overview of what has been covered in the video. The development of cyberspace has made it possible for cyber attackers to attack with little risks to themselves. Cyber warfare has become a great threat to the national security. Cyber warfare is generally a digital assault on a government by another or by a large group of citizens for the purpose of causing damage or disruption. The most important target area of cyber warfare is to gain control over military command and communications as well as information gathering of the targeted nation. The increasing reliance on technology has created significant cybersecurity challenges. The threat of cyber warfare cannot be adequately anticipated but can have a devastating impact on the lives of people. It can cause real-world disruption to the operation of various private as well as government services. Various efforts both at the national as well as international level should be developed in order to fight cyber threats. Cyberspace security should be prioritized so that defenses can be employed in order to stop cyber risk. Thank you for watching. I hope you have found the module useful.